So the war of words between Max Blessed Holloway and Ilya El Matador Topuria continues. And these two, I mean, they clearly don't like each other. They're clearly getting on each other's nerves. And they're just further just building up one of the biggest fights in featherweight championship history. So they both had a bit of a back and forth interaction as posted here on MMA Fighting on Instagram. So Ilya had to say he responded to Max Holloway calling him questionable. He said the only thing questionable about me is whether I finish you by KO or submission. I just beat the guy that beat you not once, not twice, but three times. Damn, he got him there. Uh, you have the one thing that keeps you relevant, and that would grant you the money fight, the BMF belt. Damn. I no longer fight for money but legacy. Kind of sound like Habib there. Winning that belt while holding my title will cement me as the first to hold both belts, the first to knock out Volk. Not the first, he's been knocked out twice before that, but nice try. And what most certainly will happen when we fight the first one to put you to sleep. Now that would be true. You'd be the first to knock him out. Um, First to put you to sleep. Something to calm you down is this: God doesn't shame anyone. You will have a worry, a worthy defeat against a champion who will be remembered for eternity. We'll see. I decide who, when, and where. If you don't like the terms, I'm sure Ortega will oblige. That's interesting because Ilya Taporia did say that when he wins the belt, he's not going to give Max Holloway, Brian Ortega, or Yair Rodriguez a chance to fight for his belt. Now he's calling out Max. I mean, he said the reason why he wants to fight him is because Max has the BMF belt, which makes the fight more appealing, which I do agree. But he's mentioning Brian, who I don't think deserves a title shot by any means, because he's like 1-2 in his last three fights. And he's just coming back from like a 2 year layoff, so I don't really think he's warranted of a shot at the belt. But I mean, he could be an alternate if Volk doesn't get it for whatever reason, and if Max Holloway doesn't end up getting the next shot. But if Max Holloway doesn't get the next fight with Ilya, I mean, I think Volk is like the logical option. I think that rematch would be next. But it's interesting that he's talking like this because he's clearly contradicting himself from like when before he became the champion. Um, but he said that he wants to fight Max Holloway, or he wants to fight next at UFC 306 in the Sphere, because I think at this point he kind of knows that he knows that the Spain fight probably won't happen this year. The Spain card, I mean. So he's looking at another option, which is to fight Mexican Independence Day. Even though Tapuria is like not Mexican, he's like part Spanish, Georgian. Still, part of that Latin descent, so it would make sense to have him on that card, especially against a Mexican fighter like Brian Ortega. But I do think it should be Volk, if not Max. But could you imagine Holloway Topuria in the Sphere, UFC 306? That would be a huge pay per view main event. Because I don't think Grasso Shevchenko 3, even though that's a good fight, I don't think that's like a worthy pay per view headliner for UFC 306. But here's Max Holloway's response. I'm done yapping now. Here's what Max. Well, I'm still going to keep yapping for another few minutes, but here's what Max Holloway had to say back to Ilya Taporia. And this is a good response. So, Max Holloway said, so this is what Ilya said: without the BMF belt, I don't want him at all. That's already part of like the last quote I just read. Max's response to that was, "That's not very BMF. That's not a very BMF way to say it. A BMF wouldn't say I'm not going to fight this guy unless. That's kind of un BMF." It's kind of true, man. I mean, if you're a bad mother effer, you're willing to take on all comers anytime, anywhere. So I agree with Max Holloway there, but like I said earlier, I do think Max beating Justin Gaethje, and not just beating him, but beating him for the BMF title on like the biggest pay-per-view in UFC history further cemented Max Holloway's superstar status. Like, he's always been a superstar. He already was a superstar going into UFC 300. He's already been a legend. But now that he has a win over Gaethje, he succeeded in his second fight at lightweight, and he became the BMF champion and got like a viral knockout in like an epic, iconic last minute exchange. I think that makes the Ilya fight a lot bigger, as opposed to if like Max didn't take the risk against Gaethje and waited after beating Old Man Zombie. I definitely don't think there would be as much interest or appeal or demand to see Topuria versus Holloway next. I think fans would just be more inclined to just see Topuria rematch Volk straight away, you know. But now that Max Holloway has that win over Gaethje, and he's the BMF champion, it does make Holloway versus Topuria a bigger fight. And both guys are doing all the right things to make this fight happen. They're doing a lot of talking back and forth. They got bad blood. They're building up a good rivalry. So I think the UFC, they're going to see this. They're going to see these back and forth interactions between Holloway and Topuria. And I think the UFC, they're going to want to make that fight next. Because the champ Ilya wants it, Max wants it, the fans want it, the fans want Volk to take time off. So we might be seeing Holloway versus Topuria at UFC 306, which would be absolutely epic. I hope that's the case. I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see it. And I mean, wouldn't that be legendary stuff, man? If Max Holloway could go from dethroning the BMF champ Gaethje and then dethroning the featherweight champ Ilia Topuria and then becoming featherweight champ after all these years, that would be insane. I hope Max can do it. I think he can do it. And I do think Holloway is going to win. Won't be as easy as the Gaethje fight, though. And who knows? In moments' time, I could change my mind on this fight. But for right now, my initial pick is Max Holloway. But I'm looking forward to this fight whenever it happens. Just hope it's the next fight. But that being said, let me know what you guys think in the comments. And see y'all in the next video.